I don't know.
No, I no. I think that's totally like because it's where it's.
I
like,
appreciate his
that's,
anger.
That's
but
what's it? The like that's the climax. There's no coming back from that, right? Where it's like you can, like like, can you still be sympathetic with someone who would still do that afterward?
Right.
Despite those things, and it's like. And I think that's the point that they're trying to get at.
Right. And
like is sort of the ultimate question.
Yeah, and then the redemptive moments. Again, these are moments. They're not like, but like when he lets the little person go after killing the other guy. I mean, it was almost like a Tarantino-esque scene. Like, where does it? I mean, it was a great scene, but does it belong in this movie? Right?
Well, so I mean, like you bring up good points with all these black comedy bits because I feel like the black comedy bits were really. Each of them, aside honestly from that scene, that were really funny, but they were funny for different reasons, which I thought was like kind of interesting.
Right.
When he drops the gun, when he's like sitting with the kids, was a deliberately like nervous, funny bit.
Right.
But it's sort of different than the joke where he runs into the glass door, as you said before, right?
Right.
And yeah, and it's just sort of strange that they all seem kind of different. That scene in particular, it's a tense. Like I think Tarantino-esque is like really, really on point there. I think like it's such like a vivid scene. Mm-hmm. But I also was very much like, I don't know, like there's something, the little person is there to. Like for you as an audience or for him as a character to, because he's the punching bag for the other guy to see what it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm being a little bit, I'm sort of talking out loud for all these things and trying to wrestle with it, like in the moment because I've only seen it once, but it's very, it's very vivid and very powerful, and I respect it. It didn't click.
Right.
Or it just didn't click. Like it's not even that I didn't like the movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just that I don't find it's not in that sublime way. And I think part of it too has to do with like what you mentioned before, was with these movies that are kind of resembling like these 70s movies, right? There was a Scorsese references to the grittiness, right?
Right.
And what I was thinking of was I kept thinking about. Is it Network? I'm trying to think.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I think it's Network. Shoot, this is really bad. This is like last episode. We forgot.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine. I can always look it up later.
I feel like it was Network. It was shoot. Yeah, but it's about the man who wants to kill himself on air,
right?
And then doesn't, and then gets a bunch of ratings because he spouts the truth, right? And so they have to keep him on.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was a more, even at the time, was a the more. I think that movie has a lot more in common with the King of Comedy and even Taxi Driver,
right?
Which is funny. So it's funny that those two are sort of like compared to, but. I think in the wake of watching Network, or just like remembering Network, really, I just don't. I don't know. Like it's not as sophisticated as those movies,
right?
You know what I mean?
You're right.
So I'm just like,
yes, there's some.
We need a little bit more.
Yeah, there's a.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's too base. I totally get what you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I just again, I didn't love it either, and because of the scenes that I don't know, just championed like anarchy, right? I mean, anarchy's not going to help us in life, and so I don't like those scenes that were championing that.
Yes, Network. Yeah, 1976.
Okay, yeah. So that bothered me because I don't think we should say, let's just say F everything and just go crazy because I don't think the message we want anyone to take away. Right? We need rational.
Yeah,
So, but
definitely.
I mean, how can you win with a movie like this? You either have to have him kill himself, And then is anyone satisfied? Maybe, because there's one less crazy person in the world, but that's not going to make us feel better for human beings. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's so interesting you bring that up, because
how could you?
Well, I think so much has to do with like the wrestling of like, this is how we feel. It's so easy to fall in like into nihilism, right?
Right.
And that's so like what a lot of art tends to do, that I think that doesn't have too much to say,
right.
if it's like a bold statement, but
right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like at the end of the day, this is how we feel.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, even if it's not rational, I think that's still an expression of how certain people, I guess, might feel. I don't know, I don't know if everyone feels that way, but I think a lot of people do.
Yeah. I think it's great that it's caused so much discussion. I love it. I mean, after the fact, I listened to a ton of podcasts about what other people thought, and I respected most of their opinions because I thought they had all valid points. I think this is a movie, like you said, you could turn it so many different ways and look at it and say something else.
Yeah.
Which means it was good for that.
Definitely. I think it's to its credit that we're having conversations like this, and so and I'm glad that there's. I'm somewhat reluctantly glad that there is art that like directly reflects like the way that we feel right now, because it allows us to examine it from like a certain distance, right?
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, it like I think that it, I don't know if it would. I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that doing so would prevent people from being, more involved in real life. I think the opposite is true. But the reason why I say reluctant is just because at the end of the day, I still feel like there's not too much there. Like the way that when you listen to other podcasts and things that I read a couple of reviews afterward and from people positive and negative, and I also too like largely like agree with like a lot of like some of the base of what they say.
Right.
But I agree, I think, more with the people who had negative things to say about it, just because there's not a lot. There's not a lot to chew on.
Right.
It's very.
And there's some, like you were mentioning.
It's very pretty, but it's not.
Yeah, and you mentioned the ambiguity about his parentage and stuff. I think also what bothered me was, and of course, where he shows up in that girl's apartment, that one, and then it's sort of alluded to, like she's asking him to leave because she's afraid, and then they just skip off to another scene, and you don't know. Like, I'm assuming he didn't kill them, but then I listened to a podcast where they were like, "Yes, he killed them." And it's like, well, how do you know that?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
I
don't think that was implied there.
I didn't think so either, but there were certainly critics that read into it, and I'm like, yeah. But that bothered me not to know. Like I either wanted to see. I don't know. It was just weird.
I definitely appreciate like unreliable narration and things like that. I just think that like in a movie like this, like it becomes a crutch because you're dealing with mental health issues, right? And so like that's where I'm like, then like it might be true-ish, but I don't think that it's untrue even for regular people, but then that's also could just be an argument against what I just said, so I don't know. Like, and
the other scene where he empties his refrigerator and crawls in, I did not really understand that. I mean, I thought he was trying to commit suicide, but then I didn't understand that. Or was he hiding? I mean, it was kind of a neat scene, but again, I'm like, where does this tie into? I guess maybe I was looking for too much. No,
I think it's just like an expression of him being of him feeling like small and strange and and because like we it's hard to know everything about the way he feels is not gone into any detail really, so we don't know.
And then again, could we ever understand the mind of a madman? You know what I'm saying? Like, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's very but I think one of the more crucial scenes at the end, and this is like probably where like it gets like the most provocative, I guess, is the very end when he sort of like revels in the message that people see, and it's not, and it's like this is where I think it's at its best. I think where we saw all the backroom stuff about how he got there, and then everyone just saw this madman killing people, right. And Again, I think that it's like unsophisticated of a take, but I also think that it's like an important one to consider because it's not it's something that is not, I think, attributed in real life too much. That we only see what, like, especially in the media, like what we were like prepared to see,
right?
And so like people see him as a glimpse of a real, but they don't get to see the like how he got there and the sympathies that we would have with him, and now he gets to revel in that, and that's bad in a lot of ways, right? So it's a like to me that's very like complex and thoughtful, but also really blunt, right, at the same time too. And so like that was like okay, like this is getting a little bit more, I think, at some more sophisticated, like not just explaining, but not just showcasing, but actually trying to dig deeper. Right.
Yeah. And I think it's such a difficult concept for someone to lose all of their morality, and yet to be sympathetic at the same time, to feel sympathy for them, you know what I mean? Or empathy. Because it's like you can't ever say, well, he had a bad life, so he could kill a couple people, it's okay. No, you can't do that, you know what I mean? So it's like, is there ever going to be enough bad backstory where we go, oh, okay, the poor guy. But I think instead the message for me was, we got to make sure there's mental health for people. And I mean,
there's social issues,
there's going to be people that fall through the cracks always, because we're not a perfect society, never will be. But I think we could do so much better job as a former counselor myself for kids. Like, it's just so sad when you see a child in an abusive home and they should have stuck there until they're 17, 18 years old, right? And we've got to have something to help people. And provide salaries for those people that are helping them, that want to make those careers want to be something they achieve.
Definitely, it's not easy, but these these are policies that have been slowly eradicated since the 70s and 80s, and it's just not.
I mean, I'm so glad there's anti-bullying policies, and I mean, it's gotten better.
Yeah.
But there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, for sure, and I think kids are a little bit more resilient than we give them credit to be too. But you're right. I mean, it's it's definitely an interesting film.
And I think he deserves some kind of, I don't want to say an Academy Award, but I mean, he just definitely deserves
some
accolades.
Recognition. Yeah.
But again, the whole Heath Ledger won posthumously. Like, he's not going to win the Academy Award. I mean? Right?
I don't know. I mean, it's sort of hard to say because there's some stiff competition coming up with Tom Hanks and a few other people. So, I mean, for sure, I think it's going to be, and it'll be strange too, right? Because like that'll be an interesting narrative that will be played, right? Mr. Rogers versus the Joker, right? So we have that to look forward to.
That's true.
But I wanted to touch on one thing real quick before we wrap up about what you mentioned before about being sympathetic, and I think I won't go on like a rant about like how people are like the way people like read like films and art and things like that, but I think it's interesting that we talk about things in those terms, like because I do as well, and I don't know what my clear thesis is necessarily, again, just like talking out loud, but I think I worry that sometimes like when we say that we can be sympathetic to something, and then they do something and then we can't be sympathetic, it's like I think we can have it's the way we talk about it. I think we have multiple emotions at the same time,
right,
and then not color it, right? So I think that even if he had done a bad thing and killed his mom, I think that we can still be sympathetic to the fact that he like came from
a
all these
lifestyle,
right.
While
While at the same time like unequivocally saying that that's a bad thing, right?
Right.
You know,
I totally agree.
yeah, no, I know that. Yeah, I definitely know that you like agree with me, but I think I'm just sort of talking out loud and thinking that when you brought that up, like a lot of people, maybe because it's a little bit difficult to just talk about in writing, you have to be like succinct and things like that. But you know.